Howdy, soldiers. Who's drinking coffee again at an unreasonable hour? 'Tis not I. See, I was going to get a little bit more done up for this video, but then I got cozy and decided that I didn't want to. It is literally a dark and stormy night outside, so please let me have my sweater paws and my hot oat nog latte. And you know what? Actually, that's a hot take of mine, alright? This is my gayest hot take, is that I don't think iced coffee should be drank all year round. Maybe that works for you, but this queer has an iron deficiency. And I am chilly. Hello, my little book dragons. Welcome or welcome back. 'Tis the season for yearly wrap-ups and best books of the year, and I am going to give my top 10 books of 2025 in next week's video. But on any given year, I read a lot of books, and even though I am still very behind on my Goodreads goal, I think I'm going to reach at least 70, and because anything I do in life is for the girls and the gays, I thought that I would have a fun pre-best books of the end of the year wrap up 2025 year-end best book video, but specifically focus on the best queer books that I read this year. Now, I've said it before and I'll say it again, a queer book is queer if the main character or most members of the supporting cast are queer. Queer books don't owe you certain things to prove or disprove a character's queerness. If it is stated that they are queer, congratulations, that is a queer book. Doesn't matter what flavor of alphabet soup it is. Doesn't matter if there's kissing in it or not. Some of these books I like specifically because of the queerness, and some of these books I just love and they also happen to be gay. Now, I have read a lot of queer books this year, and so I obviously have left a lot off of this list. We're not including sequels, we are excluding YA, and I'm not going to be talking about novellas. And I'm only going to be talking about books that came out in 2025, so no backlist and no advanced copies for 2026. Look, if I don't make myself a list of arbitrary rules, we are going to be here all night. Now, of course, these are all my own opinions, and I can only say them about the books that I actually read this year, so if you don't see your favorite on this list, maybe leave me a long and detailed comment on how wrong I am to help boost my engagement, because that's what the holiday spirit's all about, right? It's about giving back. It's giving season. So without further ado, grab a drink, grab a snack, buckle in, join me as we talk about the top 8 queer books that I read in 2025. Why 8? I don't know. It's a good round number. And the last time I checked, 8 is in fact not the number 10. And so many people do top 10s. So like, let's just take that pressure off. Let's do top 8. Why not, right? Let's switch things up. And I definitely didn't mean to make this list oops all lady nights, but there are quite a few books featuring hot women with swords, including this first one, which has a couple of bicons in it. One of the most emotionally intimate books that I read this year was the beautiful relationship and highly political machinations of The Second Death of Locke by Tori Bovolino. A high political fantasy featuring a mage and a knight bound together by blood and magic, where this world's magic is slowly dying ever since the destruction of the Isle of Locke, and our main character is holding a deathly secret that is somehow tied to that. The relationship that Gray and Kier have is truly the high point of this novel. The trust and respect and this deep knowing of another person, and it also engages quite a lot with grief and PTSD and having the responsibility of a nation on your shoulders. Trauma, very gay. The world building around magic and like having wells and having mages and having them tied together, but then like the sacrifices both of them make in this war as just pawns is very intricate. It's queer, it's brutal, it's beautiful. The character study in this is absolutely stunning. So if you would like some A+ pining, you gotta pick this up. Next up is a horror novel that I just finished that explores messy, morally gray queers running around, the horrors of academia, and some good squelchy body horror, and that was The Library at Hellebore by Cassandra Kah. The Hellebore Technical Institute for the Gifted is a special academy that is home to dangerous magic users, the Antichrists, the Death Workers, Apocalypse Makers, and World Eaters. All the students are promised redemption upon graduation. However, on graduation day, all of the faculty join into this like slurpy blob of flesh and goo, and it's going around and eating students, and a group of students are now trapped in the somewhat carnivorous library as all of them are trying to figure out if they can trust one another while also trying not to get eaten. Very fun, very gross. Many unreliable and unlikable narrators that I happen to all love. The writing is sharp and witty, and I think it goes really nicely with all of this otherworldly, absolutely bizarre monstrosity that we get in the strangest of places and at the strangest of times. Big themes on, you know, what would you do to survive and what makes a monster and the ethical ambiguity of this very bizarre situation. And of course, monstrosity being used as an allegory for queerness is amongst that, among with most of these kids just being gay. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you think princes of hell and people who can unravel your body at a thought and weird, like, hair demons stick to a binary? Now, because this stack is 50% Lady Knights by volume, I am going to stagger them throughout this video. So next up is another delightful Lady Knight book. God, I am such a basic bitch bisexual. You give me a moth and a moon motif, maybe throw a sword in there, and I am ready and willing to give you my credit card. Tell me that if you saw this in the store, you wouldn't also be a little seduced. It's The Knight and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. Another phenomenal duo of bicons that I wish would step on me. I've got to stop making jokes like that. People are gonna think I'm into something I'm not. Fantastic, romantic, full of old gods and yearning and religious trauma. Our main character Sybil is a diviner. She is a nun who can tell the future, but every time that she tells the future, she has to ingest someone's blood and then drown. But when her sisters start going missing, she teams up with a heretical knight in order to find out where they are going, what plans the church has for her, and then slowly unravels this whole conspiracy about the gods themselves. The gothic aesthetic is beyond in this. The way that Rachel Gillig immerses you in your senses, particularly when it comes to like fight scenes or weather, particularly like you can feel the rain on your face and you can feel the ache in your muscles as you lift the sword. I loved the lore. I love this weird omen magic. And Rory. Rory is our knight, who I would also run away from a convent for. This earring-wearing, guy-liner-rocking man makes her custom armor by melting wax and specifically shaping it to her body while on his knees. And girl, does that ever do something for me. Slow burn romance, eerie setting, and gargoyle sidekicks. What's not to love? All right, let's switch things up. Let me talk about the one historical romance that I really enjoyed this year, and that is the trans Regency romance, A Gentleman's Gentleman by TJ Alexander. Our main character, Lord Christopher Eden, is a man of unusual make. His family has tragically passed away, leaving him the only surviving heir, and in the clause of their family's will, he has to marry by the time he's 25 in order to get the estate. But he's pretty shy and kind of hates people, so he hires a footman in hopes that that will help him be more social once he's in London. But then the footman gets there, and oh no, he's sexy. So now James and Christopher are in this weird, like, boss-employee slash footman and lord slash maybe friendship slash maybe more than that relationship, and family secrets are revealed on both sides that lead to a very entertaining horse cart chase scene through the countryside. It is a charming, beautiful, nuanced look at the trans experience, particularly in this time period, and I really like how TJ Alexander kind of balanced both of those things of like showing queer joy and trans joy. Like no one ever gets outed in this, no one ever is talked down to horribly, but then we also see that loveliness kind of pushing up against the darker side of what it means to be a part of the queer community and not fully being able to be out in society or not being able to fully show all of yourself. And while I did like the slow burn tension between James and Chris, again, really pulling on the Regency era sense of propriety and rules of societal etiquette, the sexy time that we get is very sexy. And again, I like that we're exploring different ways to talk about intimacy and bodies and transitioning that are in a historical context, an historical lens. I really love the friendship dynamic that Chris and his tailor have. Etienne is so warm and welcoming and wonderful. Even his agreement with Constance is heartwarming, and it's like, yes, we love seeing friendship and romance in the same book. Oh, what time is it? It's time to go back to Lady Knights. So this next book is one that I don't know if people clock as queer, because again, it's not very obvious, and you know, this happens a lot with bisexual books, where if it's a heterosexual couple, oh, that's a straight book, and if it's a sapphic couple, then oh, that's a lesbian book, which like, no. But since we have at least one of the two main characters confirmed swinging for both teams, and I'm happy to say that my favorite book of 2025 features a freewheeling muscle mommy who is down to use any weapon to fuck up history, and that is The Everlasting by Alex E. Harrow. Sir Una Everlasting. Girl, I'll call you whatever you want, damn. This is an absolute stunner of a time loop literary fantasy romance, and our main character is a scholar living in a World War I-esque fantasy world world, who is sent back in time by the Ministry, who has this kind of time magic, in order to influence the history behind the founding tale of his kingdom, in order to like affect the present day events, and in going back falls in love with the founder of Dominion, Una Everlasting. As he and Una meet again and again and again, they start to realize that they are stuck in a time loop and they need to break out, and that they will find each other in every life. It's romantic, it's tragic, it's full of yearning and longing and heartbreak and PTSD. This is a great example of a book that has queer characters but is not about being queer. And while queerness is brought up, you know, people are aware of it. There are some side characters that are also queer. It is not about being queer. Although, talk about age gaps. My goodness. I know that's a big thing in the queer community, but like 1,000 years? A legend, a lie, a love story. Reading Una and Owen constantly colliding and the inevitability of them meeting again and again. Whatever Alex E. Harrow writes, I am eating up. Because why? Because she's cooking. Like, yes, chef. Oh my god. How did it just start raining harder? I feel like I'm in a Pirates of the Caribbean movie. Which is appropriate because that was probably my gay awakening. Because it was always Will Turner or Elizabeth Swann, and I said yes. Just how like The Everlasting is a book that has a queer character, but it's not about being queer. This book also lives its truth in the same way. A really unique fantasy that centers magic around life and death that I really loved and don't talk enough about is The Sun-Blessed Prince by Lindsay Bird, where a battle-weary prince meets a reluctant assassin, and the relationship that they develop and the secrets they unearth about both of their countries at war, lead to maybe the unraveling of a kingdom and a better understanding of magic that may usurp the ideas they have on magic and science. Prince Elysian is a giver of life magic and healing and nothing else. Wow, she really said that in a gay novel. And because he has life magic, he can't be killed, so he's always on the front lines of his war. However, Cat is a Reaper assassin from the opposing kingdom, and Reapers can kill anything with a touch. But Cat isn't able to kill Elysian, and Elysian offers him a deal to come back with him to the capital and start a new life, whereas Cat wants to try and infiltrate the palace. That way, however, oh man, feelings get involved, and like, maybe everything I've known is a lie. This is a queer normative world, and both of our leads are gay. But what threw my expectations in a good way is I was assuming this would be more of a love story, and it's really a friendship story. It's about building trust, building yourself back up again, and using your voice, and also, growing closer to somebody. And then at the very, very end, it's just like the teeniest bit of like possible romance. It's like a of romance. And I really like that because, again, like, my kingdom for some queer friendship in the queer book space, like, it is mostly focused on romance because that's typically the easiest way to show and develop a queer character is to, have them love somebody that is outside of the societal expectation. Whereas in here, we're talking about learning about yourself, learning about your world, opening up your worldview, realizing that you've been wrong and apologizing for that, making friends, making a new family. The necromancy that Cat and Elysian's sister, don't remember what her name is, but I really liked her. She was a very fun teenage character in this. Their necromancy and like learning how to use it with science. If you want a book full of plot twists and court intrigue and then some just good gay friendship, you gotta pick this up. Like, why don't I talk about this more? I should. Second last is one that I mentioned in my November wrap-up, so if you would like to hear more about it, or about some more of the other Lady Night books, I will link that video there. I let this book bury itself in my soul, not just because it's queer, but because it's one of the weirdest, coolest, most Rachel stories about stories within time loops, within folklore, within magic that I've ever read, and it's delicious. And I'm talking about An Isle in the Silver Sea by Tasha Suri. Hot take, I think I love the world building and the story even more than I care about the gay main characters. A magical island that you go to and you lose your memory, and then once you're there, the magic of that island sweeps you up and puts you in a story. And basically, the more people believe in a certain story, and the more that it's repeated, the stronger it gets. So sometimes you can become a story, or you can be involved in a story. And like, people know that they are a story, or they know that they're the reincarnation of a role in a story. And our two main characters are the most recent reincarnations of a story called The Knight and the Witch, and the two of them are trying to break out of their story cycle, but also are falling in love with one another. Again, love me a simping lady knight. Vina is determined and yet so pathetic. And Simran, who is our witch, she is sharp and she has magic tattoos. There's this one side couple that I love so much, and they kind of come out of nowhere, and I love that because all these characters who are like coming in and out of stories, you just never know who's like trapped in their story because the magic will like force you to do things to keep you along your story's path. Beautiful writing about love and sacrifice and breaking cycles and the disenfranchisement of religion. Also, I like the lore that anybody who's in a story can be reincarnated in any way. So the two main characters have been reincarnated as multiple genders in the past before, so we do get some interesting flashbacks to previous lives. It's a story within a story about stories and about magic, and it's so incredibly beautiful, and it's so incredibly weird, and it's right up my gay alley. And last, but certainly not least, usually I'm a huge fan of a healthy relationship, okay? In myself, with others, family, friends, romantic relationships, what have you. I am all for communication and learning each other's love languages and, not actively being shitty to somebody. That being said, when it comes to toxic lesbian vampires, I'm willing to let them get away with some stuff. That's right, bitch. We're talking about my other favorite book of 2025, Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. In this household, we not only respect women's rights, we respect women's wrongs, and this is about three women who are doing a whole lot of wrong, but in the best way. Sabine is one of our oldest vampires who has long let her humanity slide. Charlotte's a woman who got turned in the Victorian era, who has too much heart for her own good. And Alice in present day, who wakes up one morning and is like, what the shit? And then is dealing with the fact that she's a vampire now and she hates it. And all these monstrous, degenerate stories as they wind and collide of three women, one who thinks with their heart, one who thinks with their head, and one who thinks with their hunger. According to this, toxic queer culture has been going on for many hundreds of years. Consent is important, especially when it comes to being turned into an immortal being with a never-ending world-crushing urge to drink blood that will never ever be sated no matter how many people you kill, and slowly and surely your humanity will melt away as you get older and lose the grip on your senses until you are literally just a creature made of hunger and teeth and blood. Again, using monstrousness as an allegory for the queer community and how it's hard to make connections and the way that they do end up finding their families and the way that they end up hurting their families and the way that society looks at them and the way that they look back. Plus, it's V.E. Schwab, so the writing is beautiful and a little uncanny. Again, one of my favorite books of 2025. This was just so atmospheric and weird, and the ending made me feel cracked open, like I was just bleeding out on the sidewalk. Slay queen. And that's that on that. Thank you all for joining me this evening as we went over my top 8 queer books of 2025. And if you disagree with me, just know I have my reasons. There better be no gay on gay violence in my comment section, okay? It's Christmas. Please let me know down below what your top queer books were for this year. I feel like so many came out, which is great. I'm just a little behind on them. I have a couple more that I'm actually hoping to read before the end of the year, so I am doing the thing that I hate other people doing, which is doing the wrap-ups before the end of the year, because at this point, I still have like 3 weeks left to find another book that I could have added to this list, but I'm not going to because I just don't feel like it. And if that makes me a hypocrite, so be it. So maybe come check back in the new year. And if I read anything that rivals or tops any of these books on this list, I'll leave it in the description box. I hope you're all having a cozy holiday season with the good food and a good book and a hot drink of your choice. Make sure to keep an eye out for next week's video when I talk about my top 10 books of the year. And you may see a few repeats, but if you do, just don't worry about it, okay? You, Rachel Sargent, are a recommendation repeater. You know where to click to like the video. You know where to click to subscribe. I hope you guys are all having a nice day wherever you are, and I will see you all next week. Bye!